interim government to express his deep concern. Other members of the Obama administration have waded in, including U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel, who talked to Egyptian Army Chief General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi about the situation. Time will tell whether these calls for restraint will make any difference.
New information tonight about the circumstances surrounding the death of one of the Chinese students on the Asiana plane crash in San Francisco earlier this month. There is speculation that a 16-year-old girl who was earlier said to have been thrown out of the plane was in fact rescued by someone who carried her out the back of the aircraft, which was torn away by the accident. Firefighters responding to the disaster spotted the girl on the ground, but their supervisor mistakenly concluded she was dead. The girl later died after being struck by a fire truck.
16-year-old Ye Meng Yuan was sitting in the back of the plane when Asiana Flight 214 crashed on July 6. She ended up on the ground in front of the plane's left wing. While there was speculation, no one saw Ye because her body was covered in foam used to smother fires. Two firefighters say otherwise. Tasked with spraying fire retardant, the two firefighters spotted Ye lying in a fetal position wearing her yellow school uniform. They alerted their supervisor to Ye's body, but Lieutenant Christine Emmons mistakenly concluded she was dead. With a protocol to rescue survivors first, Ye was not moved to the emergency triage area. Video taken from a helmet camera at the crash scene determined the driver of Fire Engine 37 did in fact run over Ye. By the time Engine 37 arrived on the scene, the firefighter maintains Ye's body must have been covered in fire-retardant foam. Unlike other foam-spraying trucks, this fire truck was not equipped with sensors used to detect objects such as human bodies. The coroner that performed the autopsy on Ye's body confirmed she was alive until a fire truck ran over her. Sources say the helmet camera video shows a firefighter pointing to tracks through the foam and calling out, "I've got a body over here." The circumstances of Ye's death are still under investigation by airline safety officials, the police hit-and-run unit, and the fire department. A lawyer hired by Ye's family said because of multiple failures by the fire department, Ye suffered a tragic and horrible death. Her family must now prove the fire department did not follow required protocols. The National Transportation Safety Board expects to issue its final report in about a year.
The driver of the train that crashed in northwestern Spain on Wednesday, killing 78 people, is due to appear before a judge over his role in the accident. Francisco Gazon was released from hospital but still remains under arrest. Spain's Interior Minister said earlier that he was being held on charges of alleged reckless homicide. It's likely his interview with a judge later today will determine whether authorities go ahead with those charges. Spain's railway agency says it was Gazon's responsibility to brake before going into the curve where the train derailed and smashed into a wall. It's still not clear whether the brakes failed or were never used, and Gazon has so far remained silent. Wednesday's disaster was Spain's deadliest train crash in at least 40 years. Millions of people packed Rio de Janeiro's famous Copacabana beach to hear Pope Francis call on people to continue their efforts to change society for the common good. The pontiff urged Catholics in Brazil and around the world not to be part-time Christians, but lead full and meaningful lives. Francis, who's been overseeing this week's World Youth Day festival, leaves Brazil later today, completing his first overseas trip since becoming pontiff earlier this year. But not everyone in Brazil was happy about his visit. Earlier in the day, demonstrators marched through Rio denouncing the church's attitudes on contraception, women's rights and homosexuality. And still ahead on our news tonight, milk powder export restrictions may be relaxed later this year. A call for more measures to help ethnic minorities. And graduation day for military summer camp participants.
黃佩斯係曼聯嘅神射手，佢所有腳都咁犀利，我哋唔可以俾佢入禁區起腳㗎。 鄉村真絲個人技術出眾，走位靈活，共業唔到佢，後防會好危險啊！
卡域克傳球準確，係攻擊起點，我哋一定要中場開始緊逼。
但講到要入波，就要過埋迪基亞嘅十字關。
International soccer friendly, Kitchee vs Manchester United. Live Monday night at 7:55 on Pearl.
Matthew, could you share your ideas with the class?
Mom's kisses are as gentle as daisies swaying in the breeze.
Matthew 啊 ，Jackie 屋企太遠啦，不如下次先去啊。
大好朋友家的路怎麼會遠呢？
我真係估唔到 Matthew 可以用咁好嘅中文嚟表達佢重視友情呢個意思啊！
女女而家3年班，中英文嘅潛質都好高。如果有一套教材可以幫佢快啲追近中學嘅程度，我梗會考慮啦。
Oxford Path Primary 真係好似專科老師跟咗你翻屋企咁，隨時隨地講解中英文。
想知道小朋友嘅中英智能有幾高？快啲打上嚟預約做個免費測試啦！
TISA 160th Anniversary presents Elementary, premiering Tuesday night at 10:40 on Pearl.
And we're back tonight with more local news. The Secretary for Food and Health says the government won't rule out relaxing the milk powder export restriction after a review is done in October. Danto tells us more.
The milk powder shortage scare has calmed after people leaving the city were restricted to a maximum of 2 cans of infant milk powder in May. News that the government plans to relax the restriction has renewed fears that grey goods traders who buy products in Hong Kong to sell at a profit on the mainland will put a strain on supply again. Speaking to TVB News today, the Secretary for Food and Health said the committee tasked with reviewing the milk powder supply situation has already begun hiring consultants to conduct pressure tests on the supply chain.
I have raised 4 areas for the suppliers and the retailers to consider. Firstly is the overall supply, and secondly the replenishment of stock for the retail outlet. Thirdly, the operation of the hotline, and fourthly, a mechanism for the pre-ordering of the supply for our local parents.
Ko said since the export restrictions took effect in May, very few calls have been made to the hotline, proving that the curb has been largely effective. He refused to speculate on what the outcome of the review may be, but didn't rule out the possibility of relaxing the restriction of 2 cans to a bigger number